Aston Martin's massive B-spec upgrade was supposed to rescue a season with only 1 point and 10 retirements. Instead, it may have exposed a much deeper crisis. Adrian Newey's team has removed weight from the chassis and gearbox, created a new nose, revised the rear suspension, reworked major aerodynamic surfaces, and even repeated crash testing on the front structure. But here is the shocking truth. Aston Martin has not officially confirmed a 16-part package, and the upgrade has not yet proven it can deliver on track. If this car still fails in Hungary, the problem may not be the design. It may be the entire system around Newey. Subscribe to the channel. To understand why this upgrade matters, you have to understand how badly Aston Martin's original plan failed. This was supposed to be the season when everything changed. Adrian Newey had joined the project. Honda had become Aston Martin's factory power unit partner. Fernando Alonso remained one of the most experienced drivers on the grid. A new generation of Formula One regulations had given every team the chance to start again. Aston Martin had the facilities. It had the investment. It had the ambition. And it had one of the most successful designers in the history of the sport. But instead of moving toward the front, the team fell to the very bottom. Last place in the Constructors' Championship. 1 point across the entire season. 10 retirements. That is not a minor setback. It is not one bad weekend. It is a warning that several parts of the project have failed at the same time. And this is where the popular 16-part upgrade claim needs to be treated carefully. The available source does not confirm an official list of exactly 16 new parts. Aston Martin has not presented a verified 16-component breakdown. What the source does confirm is already dramatic enough. Weight has been removed from the chassis. Weight has also been removed from the gearbox. The car has a new nose. The aerodynamic surfaces have been substantially revised. The rear suspension has been modified. And the forward chassis structure required fresh homologation and crash testing. That is not a routine update. That is a rescue operation. Most Formula One upgrades are smaller than the headlines make them sound. A team may alter the edge of the floor. It may reshape part of a wing. It may change a few surfaces around the side pods. Those changes can still be important, but the basic structure remains untouched. Aston Martin has gone much deeper. The main chassis and gearbox architecture are still fundamentally the same, but removing structural weight forced the team to complete new safety approval work. That detail reveals the scale of the problem. Teams do not repeat crash testing because they changed a tiny aerodynamic flap. They do it because something important underneath has been altered. And that raises the first uncomfortable question. Why did Aston Martin need changes this extreme so early in the season? The answer begins before the car ever reached the circuit. Newey revealed that serious work on the 2026 car did not begin until the middle of March in 2025. The wind tunnel model did not arrive until the middle of April. By then, rival teams had already been developing their cars for months. In Formula One, lost time creates more lost time. The first decision affects the second. The chassis affects the cooling system. The cooling system affects the side pods. The side pods affect the airflow toward the floor and rear of the car. The suspension affects whether that airflow remains stable. When the first stage begins late, everything that follows becomes rushed. Imagine building a house while every other team has already completed the foundations. You may have a brilliant architect. You may have expensive materials. But you are still trying to catch up while everyone else is building the roof. That was Aston Martin's position. And when a Formula One car is designed in a rush, one problem often appears first. Weight. Newey admitted the AMR26 chassis was a long way overweight. That phrase should terrify any racing team. Excess weight follows the car everywhere. It hurts acceleration. It increases braking distance. It makes direction changes more difficult. It places more stress on the tires. And it reduces the engineer's freedom to position ballast where it can improve balance. Think of running while carrying a backpack filled with stones. You may be strong. You may understand the course. You may have the best shoes. But the weight punishes every step. That was Aston Martin's reality. And the extra mass did not come from one simple mistake. Part of it was connected to vibration problems during the integration of Honda's new power unit. Part of it came from not having enough time to optimize every structure properly. When engineers are rushed, they often choose strength over minimum weight. They add material. They reinforce components. They protect against failure because they do not have enough time to develop a lighter solution safely. That may preserve the structure, but it creates a permanent performance penalty. Newey explained the issue directly. When a car is designed in a rush, weight is one of the first things to suffer. That one sentence connects the late start to the crisis on the circuit. The car began behind schedule. The design process became compressed. Weight increased. The Honda integration created vibration. The car then entered testing without enough reliable running. One problem opened the door to another. And that is why the new package cannot be understood as a simple attempt to add downforce. Aston Martin is trying to remove the consequences of its rushed beginning. The lighter chassis attacks one weakness. The lighter gearbox attacks another. The new nose changes the beginning of the airflow. The revised aerodynamic surfaces change how that air moves across the car. The rear suspension revision may help control the platform underneath everything. Each change has a separate purpose. But the real test is whether they finally work together. That cooperation was missing from the original AMR26. The car attracted attention when it first appeared. Its nose looked aggressive. Its side pod treatment looked ambitious. Its aerodynamic philosophy created discussion. But Formula One does not award points for visual ambition. It rewards usable performance. A car can create impressive downforce in a wind tunnel and still struggle on the circuit. The chassis moves. The tires deform. The driver brakes. The rear rises. The front drops. The airflow changes. If the aerodynamic platform is unstable, the grip can disappear exactly when the driver needs it most. That is the difference between theoretical performance and usable performance. Theoretical performance exists in the perfect position. Usable performance survives braking, turning, curbs, fuel changes, tire wear, and wind. Aston Martin may have had ambitious ideas. But those ideas were operating on a car that was too heavy, affected by vibration, and developed under extreme time pressure. The result was not one isolated weakness. It was a chain reaction. Vibration could require reinforcement. Reinforcement could add weight. Extra weight could hurt braking and direction changes. Poor balance could overwork the tires. Overworked tires could hide aerodynamic potential. Then the engineers would struggle to identify which problem came first. That is when a car becomes almost impossible to develop. Every attempted solution affects something else. Remove weight, and reliability may become a concern. Add strength, and performance falls. Increase front grip, and the rear may become nervous. Protect the rear, and the car may refuse to rotate. It is like trying to level a table with 4 uneven legs. Adjust one corner, and another begins to move. That is the real danger facing Newey. He is not fixing one bad component. He is trying to make an entire system cooperate. And the new nose may be the clearest sign of that effort. The nose is the first major structure that meets the airflow. From there, the air travels around the suspension, beneath the floor, past the bodywork, and toward the rear of the car. Change the entrance, and everything behind it can behave differently. Imagine pouring water into a network of narrow channels. Change the shape of the first opening, and the flow through every later section changes. That is why a new nose can influence far more than the front of the car. It can alter how the floor works. It can affect how stable the front tires feel. It can change how the air reaches the rear. And when Aston Martin describes the aerodynamic surfaces as substantially revised, the implication is clear. The team is not polishing the original direction. It is trying to create a better one. But this is where the risk becomes enormous. Changing several major areas at once can produce a faster car. It can also create a car the team does not understand. The setup knowledge from the old version may no longer apply. The preferred ride height may change. The correct wing level may change. The suspension settings may need to be relearned. The balance may move as fuel burns away. Aston Martin could arrive with a genuinely better package and still struggle to unlock it during the first sessions. That is why one poor lap would not prove immediate failure. But after 1 point and 10 retirements, the team does not have much patience left. It needs progress that can be seen. It needs a car that finishes. It needs a balance the drivers can trust. And it needs evidence that the entire Newey project is moving forward. Because the most recent race before Hungary offered none of that. In Belgium, Kimi Antonelli won for Mercedes. Charles Leclerc finished second for Ferrari. Max Verstappen completed the podium for Red Bull. Fernando Alonso finished 19th, 2 laps behind. Lance Stroll retired after 25 laps with another problem in the AMR26. The leading teams were fighting for victory. Aston Martin was fighting to survive the race. That is the baseline this package must change. Not a team sitting comfortably in the midfield. Not a car narrowly missing points. Last place. 1 point. 10 retirements. A driver finishing 2 laps behind. Another car failing before the race was complete. That is why Hungary has become much more than the debut of an upgrade. It is the first major test of whether Aston Martin can rescue the season. And the pressure does not stop with the Constructors' Championship. Fernando Alonso wants tangible progress. Not another promise. Not another prediction. Something he can feel when he brakes, turns, and accelerates. Newey has already acknowledged how important this package could be to Alonso's future. If the car responds, Alonso may believe the project still deserves more time. If it does not, the consequences could reach far beyond one weekend. Because Alonso will not judge progress only through the final position. He will feel whether the front responds more naturally. He will feel whether the rear remains stable. He will feel whether the car changes direction with less effort. He will know whether the new package creates a foundation, or only another temporary illusion. And that leads to the question Aston Martin cannot avoid. What happens if the new nose works, the weight comes down, and the car still remains slow? Then the problem may not be aerodynamic. What happens if the car becomes faster, but reliability fails again? Then the package may improve performance without solving the season. What happens if Alonso feels progress, but Stroll cannot access the same balance? Then the team may still lack a predictable platform. Every possible answer opens another problem. And that is why this package carries so much danger. It is not only testing new parts. It is testing the organization that designed, built, and integrated them. Newey can create the concept. But he cannot personally manufacture every component. He cannot personally solve every Honda vibration issue. He cannot personally guarantee the wind tunnel matches the circuit. Formula One success depends on hundreds of people making connected decisions. A brilliant idea can fail inside a weak system. And if Aston Martin remains at the back after changing this much, the conclusion will become difficult to escape. The disaster may not be one failed upgrade. The disaster may be discovering that the team still cannot turn Adrian Newey's ideas into a complete, reliable racing car. That is the real pressure behind Hungary. Not an unverified 16-part number. Not an exaggerated claim of instant transformation. The real story is that Aston Martin has changed enough to expose whether the project has a future. And the next stage reveals why the answer may decide more than lap time. It may decide Alonso's future, Newey's authority, and whether Aston Martin's partnership with Honda begins with recovery, or becomes one of the most expensive failures in Formula One.